Today FM, good morning to you. Well, it's only July now, but if you're one of those people who like to plan ahead, let's look forward to October 2017, the Olympia Theatre in downtown Dublin on Dame Street there, the 1st of October, and there's a band playing. They're called Indoor Garden Party. They're comprised of Canadian folk singer Alan Doyle, producer Carl Falk, and master vocalist Scott Grimes and Samantha Barks. And also in there is actor, writer, producer, Academy Award winner, in fact multi-award winner, and bit of a legend, Mr. Russell Crowe, who's on the other end of the telephone line right now. Hi Russell, good morning, how are you?
Thank you very much, Matt. I'm great, actually. I'm really good.
So this band you've got, Indoor Garden Party, you've been in bands before. Are you taking this seriously? Is this a big thing? Because I've been listening to some of it and it's quite good, the music.
Cool, man, thanks. Now, look, man, I've always had music in my life, and I know that when I got really famous, that this sort of thing, came up that I shouldn't be doing both things, but that's never stopped me from doing it. I'm not changing spots at all. This is, who I am. I'm compelled and impelled equally to write songs, to have a sort of poetic aspect on some of the experiences of my life and condense it into a couple of minutes, And I've been doing it since I was a kid. My first record came out in 1981,
Really? What was that?
So it's not... don't worry about it, mate. Let's not go backwards here. Let's look at how beautiful this record is. So all the way through, and as you mentioned, I've been in bands like 30 Odd Foot of Grunts and Ordinary Fear of God and stuff, and I started writing with Alan Doyle, who's in this group, in 2004. And for the both of us, we're the person that we've written the most songs with. So Indoor Garden Party starts with me and Alan as a songwriting duo and performing together. And when we perform, we would just naturally bring friends who are there, because we knew how amazing they were. They would get up and do a number and what have you. And then over time, there's like 5 people now, and they, Scott Grimes and Samantha Barks. Samantha, just to remind you, sang the role of Eponine in Les Miserables. She's amazing, man.
Right,
She's been on
beautiful voice,
West End, and she's fantastic, yeah. And so it's sort of like that group of 5 kind of formed as a larger nucleus of the original sort of thing, So that's what it's about, man. It's just about singing songs that mean something with voices that are amazing, like Scott and Alan.
And you, Russell.
But also relating to the audience and telling stories and bouncing off each other,
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a bunch of song monsters on the stage, Everybody's got something really big to give.
Yeah.
And it just, we end up having the most outrageous fun times when we do concerts.
And the album which came out in June is called The Musical. Is it a musical? You know what I mean? Like, is it destined to become something that has a story to it? Is that the idea, or why is it called The Musical?
Well, there's a number of different answers to that. Part of what you said, there could well be.
Right.
But what happens right now is, like, we're trying to explain this group, man, right? I mean, it's kind of difficult, Cyclically, it takes 2 or 3 years each time before we can play concerts, because everybody's got such gigantic schedules,
Yeah.
You sort of, like, you try to describe the show to people. I live in Australia. Scott Grimes lives in Los Angeles. Alan Doyle lives in Newfoundland. Samantha lives in London. And Carl Falk lives in Stockholm. Organising rehearsals a bitch. And when we're on stage, it's kind of like, like I described, Alan and I are doing a show, and we're presenting songs that we've written together, And then we bring other people on to sing, and there'll be a couple of Irish boys on the stage that night too, Owen and Molly O'Sullivan, who we've been working with since we met them. Alan and I were booked to go and be at the unveiling of a statue for Richard Harris in Kilkee, right?
Ah, very good.
And we said, great, we'd love to come. Can you introduce us to the local choir? And the organiser of the event said, no problem, I said, great, cool. So we rock up to Kilkee, we go to the pub we're supposed to meet these people at. We walk in and we're looking around, it's like there's not a crowd, and then these 2 lads sit down and say, could they join us, which was a bit confronting as well. But then it was like, they sort of like called Alan by his name and me. Also, we're supposed to meet you. And he goes, so who are you guys? And they said, we're the choir.
The choir, just the two of them.
Apparently, the local choir takes a month off every year, so they weren't around. Anyway, so and Owen and Molly have been doing shows with us now for 5 or 6 years. So you end up with 7, 10 sometimes people on stage. Depends on who's in town. So a lot of the fun of the shows is just relating the stories behind the songs.
What about when you were growing up yourself? Because you're kind of in your very, very early 50s now at this stage. So was glam rock a thing in Australia or New Zealand, or what kind of music did you grow up to?
I think I was principally influenced by my parents' record collection, which was by no means expensive and had a lot of crap in it. But they had one album that my mum had gotten, and I don't know the full story of this, and she probably will never really tell me, but she got this bootleg album made in Hong Kong, an Elvis Presley record from a young American sailor who was passing through on his way to Vietnam.
Ooh.
Moving right along. Anyway, that was the best record in the collection, but it was on the label, it said Elvis Golden's hit. And it had all these Chinese lettering on it and stuff, But sure, influenced very heavily by singer-songwriters, guys like Jim Croce and people like that, and and the flavour of whatever times. If you think about it, man, I was a kid already focused on music in the 60s, I've gone through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, or whatever. So there's a lot of things, that you listen to over the years. Right now I'm really into this Rag and Bone Man, which I know is a little bit late, but the record didn't come out here until quite recently.
Yeah, well, you can probably go down as deep as him because you've got a really good voice. Just listening to some of the tracks, like you do Fields of Athenry there, really nice version of it, and it's kind of a definitive version almost. It's beautifully recorded. We'll play a bit of it in a second. And another one, the way, I know in Ireland anyway, at the end of a night where there's a kind of a disco on and everybody sort of finishes up and they play a really rousing song. There's a song on the album called Fight Another Day. I'm going to play a little bit of it, okay? Cool. Is this you singing on it, by the way? Is this you doing the Fight Another Day?
No, that's Alan Doyle.
Oh, is it? Oh, right, okay.
The lead vocal on Fight Another Day is Alan Doyle. He's, we joke about that being a Celtic Viking song, genre of one.
Yeah, here we go.
They all heard the legend of the glorious city. 7 days row from the harbour, and they would find Paris. We will fight another day. We'll fight another day.
It's Celtic, all right, anyway. It's fighting Irish and all that. So listen, Russell, lovely talking to you. We're looking forward to the gig. 1st of October, it's on the Olympia Theatre in Dublin. Can I just ask you about the All Blacks versus the Lions? Do you think that the All Blacks would have been disappointed with the outcome in the end?
I think both sides would have been disappointed, man, and I don't think that disappointment will dissipate, and I think, see you in 12 years. And it'll all be on again,
Exactly.
Just speaking of Fields of Athenry,
yeah.
That song, I heard for the very first time in my life, sung by the crowd at Lansdowne Road.
Yeah.
Very grey and misty day, Wallabies versus Ireland. And Ireland, I think, had not beaten the Wallabies for like 36 years, and they did on that day.
Yeah.
And that was the Wallabies, the World Cup winning Wallabies, Wendell Sailor, all those big, gigantic machines of men. Yeah. And the Irish team vanquished them that day, and that was the first time I heard that song. But I never really focused on the words of it until a few years later. And then I realised what the third verse was talking about.
Right.
It was, social hope and praise, for love in Botany Bay.
Yeah.
It's a direct connection to Australia. So that's why that song took on a greater meaning for me. And I love having taken a piss with, I meet a new Irish person, I go, well, Fields of Athenry is an Australian song. And they argue it, and they go crazy. And then I point out the lyric.
You do a great version of it. I'm going to play a little bit of it now. Russell Crowe, pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. See you later. Cheers.
Cheers, Ian.
See you on the 1st of October.
Bye.
Sure, she'll wait, she'll hope and pray for her love in Botany Bay. It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry. Long like the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly.
Some voice in him, Russell Crowe, hasn't he?